Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday Storytime. I am so glad that you could join us tonight. Tonight's story is called Monkey Boy by Mrs. Pablo. There's no monkeys in it, just letting you know. But tonight's story is about a little boy named Nate, and he was in a car accident with his mom. It was kind of sad. But during it, he learned two things. One was trust, and one was faith. This is kind of good because this coming Sunday, our lesson is about trust. A man named Peter had to trust what Jesus said. So those are two very important words. So listen for them, okay? All right, I'm ready to start. Are you? Okay, let's do this. Nate stood on the dark roadside for a minute before deciding what to do. He tried to remember all that he had learned in school about what to do in an emergency, and all he could muster up was that he should keep calm. Nate shut his eyes real tight in an effort to remember more, but the only thing that came to his mind was the heart puzzle that Uncle Tony had sent. He could see the words of the puzzle as if it was right in front of him. He remembered sitting on his bed, putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And reciting the words made things easier when he put the puzzle together. It got so that he could recite it without looking. It said, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall make your paths straight." Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Well, Nate thought, I have nothing else to trust since my own memory won't work. As Nate picked his way back to the car to check on his mom, he didn't notice that a car had pulled up along the side. The driver had seen the small figure of a boy standing by the road and thought it strange, especially when the boy turned down into the gully where it was dark. Nate was soaked all the way to his socks, and his shoes slipped on the grassy parts. He was almost to the car when his right foot slipped again, but this time Nate lost his balance and started to fall. It was then a large hand grabbed hold of his left arm. "Whoa there, little boy. Are you okay?" Nate gasped in shock. He was concentrating on making it back to the car that he didn't even hear someone coming up behind him. Besides, the rain was still pouring, making it even harder to see. The stranger pulled Nate upright and leaned over to see his face. Nate squinted his eyes, making little streams of water run down the sides of his face and off his nose. But Nate could only see that the man was clean-shaven and wearing a raincoat and a hat. The stranger asked again, "Are you okay, little boy?" Nate nodded, but then the feelings of fear came back and he started to cry. What came out was a very shaky, "But my mom, she's in the car. We had an accident. I think she's hurt." The stranger opened the door to the back seat and Nate sat inside where it was warm and dry. Then the stranger tried to get the driver's door open. It was jammed shut. He didn't give up to Nate's relief and pulled and tugged until he was able to open the door enough to get to Nate's mom. She was making groaning noises as if she was in pain. The man spoke to her gently and kept talking to her while he checked on her. The man came to the back seat and told Nate that help was on its way. How? Nate wondered when he or the man never ran for help or spoke to anyone else. The man popped the trunk and rummaged around in it until he found an old blanket Nate's mom kept in there. The man wrapped the blanket around Nate's mom and closed the door. When he came around to the back seat, he held out his hand and told Nate that he would take him back up to the road to wait for the police. Nate backed up into the seat. After all, he just realized he shouldn't talk to strangers, much less go with them. The man smiled and told Nate that it was going to be okay. "Little boy," the man asked, "do you go to church?" Nate shook his head no. "That's too bad," the man said, "because there are many nice people there. I go to church." Nate spoke up. "My uncle goes to a church." "That is good," the man said. "I have a little boy about your age. He likes puzzles and games." Nate brightened up and told the man that he too liked puzzles and remembered again about the puzzle Uncle Tony had sent him. The man asked him what his mother's name was. Nate replied, "Anna." That is pretty, the man said. "What is your name?" Nate told him. "Why, that is a great name," the man said. The man asked Nate again to go with him to the roadside. "This way you won't have to be alone in the dark." Nate didn't understand why he went, but he did. The man carried him back up the slippery grass, and sure enough, by the time they got there, flashing red lights of red, yellow, and blue were coming down the road. The sirens were loud, even in the pouring rain. The man quickly pointed a couple of ambulance people down to the car, while another of them took Nate to the back of the ambulance. Nate had never been in an ambulance before. It was so bright that Nate had to blink his eyes several times before he got used to the light. There were wires hanging and a bed with a pile of blankets nearby. He could see what looked like a telephone. The technician who took him sat him on a stool and picked up his face. "Looks like you came out okay, young man. Do you hurt anywhere?" Nate shook his head no, but said over and over, "My mom, she's hurt in the car." The technician told him that she was being looked after. "Buddy," he said, "you look like you're going to be okay. You will get to ride in this puppy with your mom, but you may have to go in the police car." Just then, Nate and the technician heard lots of commotion and voices outside of the ambulance. A couple of policemen were directing traffic while the other ambulance people came for the gurney. "Sonny," one of them said, "your mom is going to be okay." "Did you wrap her in that blanket?" he said. "Good thinking," before Nate could tell him that the man had done that. They were not too long before they had Nate's mom in the ambulance wrapped in special blankets. She was awake now and was frantic until she saw that Nate was okay, sitting on the side of the ambulance. Nate had tried to get up off the stool to go outside once, but was told to stay still. He had wanted to see the strange man one more time to tell him thank you for saving him and his mom. Nate could see outside the ambulance, but in all that time, only saw police and the flashing lights of their cars. Nate and his mother were rushed to the hospital. It was several hours later before his mother was put in a room with a little cot next to her bed for Nate. It seemed that once his head hit the pillow, that even if it was not soft and fluffy like his pillow at home, he fell asleep right away. It seemed that Nate dreamt of rain and flashing lights for a time. It seemed that once in a while his eyes would flicker open and he'd see white figures in and out of a dim light, and through it all he could hear the voice of a man telling him that it was going to be okay. "Nate! Nate!" Someone was calling him from far away. "Stop! Stop," he wanted to say. "Let me sleep." But someone was shaking his shoulder, insisting that he open his eyes. Nate blinked slowly. His eyebrows wrinkled as he squinted into the light. Was it daytime already? Nate blinked, and when he looked, he sat up in bed and threw his arms around his Uncle Tony. Uncle Tony, you're here, you're here." "Mom and I crashed the car into a tree and it was raining, and a man came and the ambulance came and the police came, and I cried because I didn't know what to do. I had to climb out of the back seat and Mom got hurt. We had to ride in an ambulance. I couldn't see where we were and didn't know where to go for help." Uncle Tony laughed and hugged Nate close to him. "That was quite an adventure you had, monkey boy." It was then Nate saw that his mom was awake and was smiling at them from the bed. Nate threw his covers off and ran to the bed. "Are you okay, Mom? Are you hurt?" Uncle Tony came and stood next to the bed with Nate. "Nate, your mom is going to be okay, but she has to stay here for a couple of days. You and I are going to take care of her, but I get to go home with you while she is here." Uncle Tony carried Nate back to the cot. "That floor's cold, so take a deep breath and tell your mom and I what happened. Nate told the story about how after the crash, Nate's mom would not wake up and how he had stood at the side of the road in the rain. He told Uncle Tony about trying to remember what he had learned at school, about what to do in an emergency, but all he could remember were the words from the puzzle. He told them about the man and how the man took care of them. It was then Uncle Tony stopped him. The police don't remember a man, Nate. Are you sure that is what you saw? Nate insisted that the man saved him from falling and carried him to the car and took the blanket out and got help. Okay, Uncle Tony said. Don't get too worked up. I believe you. Nate's mom, who had been quiet, softly said from the bed, Nate, what did he look like? Nate told them about his hat and his raincoat and that he was clean shaven. Nate said that he couldn't really see his face, but he had this ring on his hand when he held out his hand to him, and when he held out his hand to Nate in the car. It was a little gold ring that was in the shape of a lion's head. The lion's eyes were little stones that sparkled even in the dim light of the car. Nate's mom gasped and covered her mouth with her hand and looked at Uncle Tony. She and Uncle Tony exchanged a quizzical look because Nate's dad had a ring just like Nate described. Uncle Tony, what do the words mean? Uncle Tony quickly returned his focus to Nate. What words, Nate? Nate said, you know, the words of the puzzle. Oh, those words, said Uncle Tony. Well, let me see if I can explain them. The verse is telling us that we should trust God with all our hearts. That means that even if we are confused or don't know what is happening, that God is watching over us. So, just like you know your mom and I would not willingly put you in danger or tell you anything that is wrong, you should trust that God will not put you in danger or tell you anything wrong. Nate, do you know that your mom loves you and tries to take care of you the best that she can? Yup, Nate answered, and you do too. Whenever you come to see us, I have the best mom and uncle in the world. Uncle Tony continued, that part that says we should not lean on our own understanding means sometimes we can't see the whole picture or we don't know everything that is happening. So we should not only rely on what we see, feel, hear, or know. I had to do this last night when I got the call about your accident. I didn't know everything and got worried, but remembered the verse and stopped to pray so that I could tell God that even if I didn't see everything or know everything, that He was taking care of you. That leads to the next part that says we need to acknowledge Him. We need to always know that He is there and that He loves us and wants the best for us. That's why it says in the end that He will make our paths straight. I know in my heart that God took care of you and let it be possible for me to come so quickly. Now I understand what happened and see you are okay, so He made my path straight. Uncle Tony, Nate asked, is that kind of what I did last night? Right? I didn't know what was happening or why Mom and I got into the crash. I thought of the words of the puzzle and I let the man take care of me, and he did. Maybe God sent him. Uncle Tony put his arm around Nate and laughed. Maybe he did, Nate. All I know is that you and your mom are going to start attending church where both of you can hear about how much God loves you and wants to take care of you, especially since I can't be here all the time. Uncle Tony, Nate asked, will you come with us to church? And then will you take us to the zoo? And then will you take me out for ice cream? At that, both Uncle Tony and Nate's mom broke out in laughter, and Uncle Tony said, Monkey boy, anything for you, anything for you. Well, that's today's story. I hope you enjoyed it very much. Remember that sometimes we can't understand everything that is happening to us. We can't see. I'm not very tall, so sometimes I can't see high things. And sometimes I can't see low things either. I can't see behind things or through things, but God surely can. He can see into our hearts. He knows what's in there. Sometimes He knows when we're afraid or when we don't understand something. And that's what He's asking us to do, to let Him take care of us. That's what I'm having to do right now. I'm letting God take care of me. I hope that you can let God take care of you. We will see you on Sunday. All right, good night. Bye.